Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Battalion Wars Radio Station. And as you can see on my screen, we are here with Pugums.
Hello, everybody. I'm Pugums. Nice to meet y'all.
Well, Pugums, I think it's something. Something. Oh my god, somebody very important and very popular, let's say, in the Battalion Wars community. But if you want, I can let you present yourself a little bit.
Well, you're flattering me. I didn't realize I was that popular. But I'm Pugums. I am a freelance artist, but at the current moment, I am the director and head of the little game project that intends to be the spiritual successor to Battalion Wars.
Wow. You're gonna make us cry because
I know,
that's like
right?
the dream of everybody. And by the way, I don't know if I personally told you or asked you, but if I can help in something, I would I would be really happy to. And I think this video is also like a way to send a message to everybody that if you want to help this project, I think we can. If it's
Of
open to
course.
everybody, okay. Well, because for
Well,
me personally, I'm searching to help directly to some big project on the community.
Of course, and from my understanding of many people in the community, many people really want to help this project. I would honestly, we'll talk about if you can help us with anything later. Personally, I don't want to talk about it too much right now.
Okay.
But yeah,
Okay.
I don't mind getting more assistance.
Okay, we will see after. So, before getting in the real business here, that is the work of Pugums, Fan Battalion and I are gonna ask you some questions about the Battalion Wars universe before asking you about your personal work, if you don't mind. I mean, we always do this with Jake the Tank Master, with Zeno, with you, with everybody.
Of course,
So,
yeah, throw them at me.
first of all, how did you find out about the Battalion Wars?
Oh God, that is an interesting story. When I was a wee young lad, I I remember being at a Target and seeing there was a trailer for a game that had just shown off at an E3 on one of the TVs. And it wasn't Battalion Wars. I believe it was called Advanced Wars First Strike.
Yes.
I think that's what it was called back before Battalion Wars was Battalion Wars. They were showing the trailer from the E3 that Battalion Wars had showed off. And I was super interested in the game. I was always a huge fan of strategy and shooting games, so it was the perfect fit for me. I didn't hear about it forever, and then about a week before my birthday, after Battalion Wars had come out, I had gained a little bit of money. So I went to Blockbusters and I rented the game. I only rented it for a night, and I brought it and I showed my family. I was so proud. It was one of the first things I ever got with my own money. And my mom just looks at me. She's like, did you really want to get that? And I'm like, yeah, of course. And I go downstairs immediately. I didn't even take time to listen to anybody. I literally stayed up all night, played through the entire game in one night, and it was a blast. A week later, I found out my family had bought me Battalion Wars.
Well,
so
that's.
I mean, I still played the hell out of it, but it was pretty funny.
That's a very special encounter with the Battalion Wars universe. So,
Yeah,
have you played both games?
of course. I played both games. I got my hands on the second game for the Wii, and I remember just enjoying it so much. So, yeah, I've played both games. I'll try
Okay.
to keep some of these shorter from me at least.
and and what is your favorite game between Battalion Wars 1 and Battalion Wars 2?
If I was younger, I'd probably say Battalion Wars 1. But
Okay.
nowadays, Battalion Wars 2 is definitely my favorite, and it mostly comes down to having a campaign where I can play more than one faction,
Yes.
and it just has better controls than Battalion Wars 1.
Yes, it's true. Yes, that the controls are more polished in some
Yeah,
ways.
no offense to... sorry. No offense to Battalion Wars 1, but Battalion Wars 1 is a single-stick shooter, and that's something from the past.
Yes, because to be forced to use the R plus the stick to just move around instead of just the C stick is very weird. It's very weird.
It is. Still fun game.
Oh yeah, no, of course. So you said that in Battalion Wars 2, the main positive thing of the game was to play different nations. So, what is your favorite nation? This is like the question we ask to everybody. What is your favorite starter on Pokemon? And depending of the answer, it is your friend or not.
Well, I will say that's a tough question for me to answer. As an artist, Battalion Wars really has fueled a lot of my creative wants and desires when it comes to my artwork. So a lot of the factions are really designed well. I can't really say that any of them are designed poorly. I like how wacky they are. Visually, they're just impressive in almost every way to me. But if I was to pick one, it would really have to be what I would call the main bad guys of the series, Exylvania.
Okay.
I find Exylvania really a lot of the times goes to wacky extents with their designs, such as looking at their light tank. How does that even work? But it's so cool looking. I love it. I like how wacky their designs with. A really close second for me would be I was about to say a different word. God, what are they called? The Tundra.
Tundra Territories.
No, the Tundra Territories. That's what they're called. I kept thinking they were called one of the factions from my own project. I'm like, wait, what were they called again?
Wow.
But no, the Tundra Territories would be a close second. I really enjoyed their almost tractor mixed with Soviet-era equipment aesthetic. It's very fun, and I also liked their color scheme.
Yeah, it's really impressive how every faction has his own personality, his own soul. You know, it's not everything. It's not everything the same, and then some different colors. No, the design really matches with the soul of the nation.
Exactly, and that's something I really like about the Battalion Wars series in a whole. It takes a very, what I would almost call a cartoon aesthetic to it, where it's less about if it would function and more about bringing out the personality of what we're looking at, bringing out just the feeling. So you can look at the Western Frontier. You know who they are. You know what they do. You look at Tundra Territories, like, well, I know who you are. It's you just can tell just by looking at these guys. Yes. It's so much fun,
and you can really feel the love of the developers in this game. I can really feel it.
Yeah, the concept artists and the designers for Battalion Wars especially hold a very special place in my fandom for them. I am such a huge fan of their work, such as individuals like Dave Swan and such.
Yes. And is there any mission you like in particular? And if it is, why? In any game, either Battalion Wars 1 or 2.
Oh, mission, yes. I couldn't really narrow it down between the two games, so I decided to just pick one from each. Mm-hmm. For the first game, when I rented the game, there was one mission that I struggled with so hard. There was one mission that always just gave me trouble, which was Beachhead.
Oh, yes.
Beachhead was so difficult for me because it was one of the first real missions that the game asks you to place units around the map, and you actually have to do that to succeed, else you'll just fail. And if you start panicking, you'll end up hitting buttons, accidentally calling units you didn't mean to, and it can easily cause you to lose the mission. But it's also the first mission that made me realize how fun and unique Battalion Wars was. It's the mission that just blew up my interest in the game. So beachhead for Battalion Wars 1. As for Battalion Wars 2, I would say Apocalypse would be my favorite mission from Battalion Wars 2.
Okay.
I don't know what it is, just pushing through the Solar Empire with the Iron Legion and eventually getting to the quad cannons is just such a blast.
Yes.
I really like the quad cannons designs themselves, so it's just one of my favorite missions for that reason.
Yeah, and the bomber, the Iron Legion bomber is so intimidating.
You know, their design. I don't mean to gush about this again, but the design work in Battalion Wars it's so good.
Yes.
It's so good.
And do you have a least favorite mission?
Well, similarly, for Battalion Wars 1, I found it actually kind of difficult to decide what my least favorite mission would be. A lot of the missions are pretty okay. At their worst, they're usually okay. If I was to say a mission that I did not like in Battalion Wars, I would say Combat Patrol, the first mission. When I first got the game, and even to this day, I remember playing through Combat Patrol, and it just feels like it holds your hand a little too much. It doesn't really represent the full breadth of the game. You're just controlling riflemen. It really doesn't give you a good sample of what you're in for, and for that, I find it's kind of a bad first mission for Battalion Wars 1. As for Battalion Wars 2, this one was actually really easy for me to choose. I absolutely abhor this mission, Their Finest Hour.
Their finest hour. Their finest hour. What is?
You start defending an airbase from the Solar Empire, so you can get a fighter out. I believe it's a fighter or a bomber. And then you have to run around the area and save POWs and take positions across the map. I hate that mission. I cannot say it enough how much I despise that mission. It was just not fun to me. Out of the factions, the Anglo Isles, as cool as I do think they look cool, but they are my least favorite designs of any factions. It does not help that they started attacking. Even though they're not one of my favorite faction designs, I actually do like their characters, which is the Solar Empire. And I was like, well, who are these dumb guys? I don't want to play as these guys. And, it's just kind of been a feeling that stuck with me. And then I get to Your Finest Hour. And it's a mission you can actually lose easily just because you can lose easily because the game wants you to use the MG towers. Mm-hmm. And when you're using the MG towers, though, you can easily lose one infantry unit who somehow makes it to the flag, and you can't shoot him because you're in the MG tower. You got to get out. It's just a hassle. I hate the start, and then just having to manage between air and ground units was never a favorite thing of mine. And yeah, it just all equals up to a mission I really don't like. I had a lot to say about that one.
It's true that sometimes it gets a bit messy when you're trying to defend yourself against light tanks, anti-airs, grounds, and gunships and fighters at the same time. It's a bit of messy. It's true. And have you played multiplayer?
I think I played maybe 3 times on multiplayer back during the days on the Wii. I remember winning every one of my matches, but multiplayer, it really was never my cup of tea. I've always just been kind of a single player and co-op focused individual. I like PvE more than PvP.
Okay. But did you play recently or it was like a long time ago?
Yes, it was a very long time ago. I haven't played it in ages. I do have the game still, but I don't really have any way to play multiplayer at the moment.
Okay. And do you think there may be a Battalion Wars 3?
That's kind of an interesting question. I would actually say no. I think there's almost absolutely zero way Nintendo would actually try to get a Battalion Wars 3 up. I know that's kind of depressing to hear, but Nintendo, it took them how long to get a reboot out for Advanced Wars, which is a more popular game than Battalion Wars. And Battalion Wars obviously is heavily based off of Advanced Wars. Now, if the Advanced Wars reboot was super successful, and let's say if also there would have to be some extenuating circumstances for it to come out. The Battalion Wars reboot would have to be decently successful, and also somebody would have to come out with their own version of Battalion Wars that is successful. So I feel like those are the only two things that would have to happen for Nintendo to even think of trying to open that box again. But at the moment, it likely doesn't look like a very successful avenue for them at this point.
And hypothetically speaking, what would you add or remove in a supposed Battalion Wars 3? Or, for example, in the fun game you were talking about?
Yes, things I would add and remove. Now, I've actually had talks with Dave Swan. He was a concept artist on both Battalion Wars 1 and Battalion Wars 2. And I spoke to him about things that were originally meant for Battalion Wars. So things that were meant to be in Battalion Wars originally were things like there was supposed to be unit production. We were supposed to be able to do that. There was going to be abilities on commanders where you could bring out a commander ability once you've earned the points enough. So those are kind of things I would actually think would work well, and I will say we do have at least planned, I don't say 100% yet on every feature yet because we are still working hard. But we do have planned things like character abilities. We have things like unit production. Unit production just isn't planned. That is something we want to be in the game. I feel that could make a number of much more interesting missions. It wouldn't be in every mission, of course. There'd still be some what I would call classic Battalion Wars missions and such. But it would be something that would make it more interesting and actually also be able to add a little more life to multiplayer, I feel.
Okay. And, well, is there something that you would like to remove or change, for example? I mean, something that already exists, but that you want to either remove or just modify to make it better?
That's actually a tough one. I don't know on that one because Battalion Wars, I love Battalion Wars. It's one of my favorite series of games. They're just really fun. I will admit they definitely have some issues. I feel Battalion Wars is a little too easy. Both games are a little too easy. There could be a little more difficulty to them. As for things that I actually would remove, every time I think of that, I just think of things I would add. So it's kind of hard for me to say one way or another.
Okay. And so this is not the last question, but the almost the last question of Battalion Wars. How did you find out, about the Battalion Wars community?
This is an interesting question because
I don't remember.
the way. Well, I do remember. I definitely remember how I found it. Back in the day, I wanted to work on a small concept art project to add to my portfolio. And for it, I added some Battalion Wars concept art that I had for a new faction idea. So nobody knew what the hell Battalion Wars was. So I decided, well, let's go look for a place where people actually know where Battalion Wars. I typed in Battalion Wars Discord into the Google, and it was right there.
Wow.
That's how I found it.
I mean, for myself, I really don't remember how I found this community. I don't really know.
I mean, it might be better to not remember because I basically did it just to show off.
So, the last question of this first part. What do you think of all the projects that are being carried out in the community, which are the ones that the ones that most attract your attention? For example, Copenhagen's or Xeno's custom missions, Yoshi's models, Jake's tanks on sprockets, the tournaments, the multiplayer videos, etc.
Well, I would have to say some of the ones I'm most interested in are things like Jake the Tank Master.
Mhm.
I have played Sprocket, and I have no idea how the hell he does so much detail into these things. Other individuals I'm interested in, there's like Lazy Scone, and I don't exactly know what the project is, but they have a bunch of top-down Battalion Wars units that they have been drawing lately. And those look really cool, and they're actually kind of helpful even for my own project, because they kind of help me understand what the proportions of, let's say, a battle station from the top should be.
Mhm.
Another Kupanik and his extra his modded missions that he adds is super cool and interesting.
Yes.
Kupanik also is working on the spiritual successor project with us. They are primarily doing music at the moment, and oh boy,
Okay.
they do a good job with music. I was very surprised. There's a number of interesting art projects and things of that nature that the server is doing. TBG's pixel art, some other individuals who are using Halo armor sets to help them
Oh
design
yeah, that's
things.
Kelvinator, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
yeah, yeah. It
Yes.
says, yeah. Uh, People like Togami drawing characters from the original game. They're also cool and interesting. I love seeing how creative this fan base is.
Yes.
Uh, there's even some interesting individuals who are writing fan fictions too, which, from what I've read, is very well put together and very well written. So, yeah, I love how creative this community is, and there's just so much to talk about with it.
Yes, it's
I
true.
could be here all day talking about the creative things this community is doing.
For my part, Battalion Wars and Fun Battalion and I, sorry, we're not. Fun Battalion is creating things with Copenhagen. For example, the Battalion Wars newspaper,
Oh yeah, I think
um,
I've seen those.
and
Well, part of them.
other projects that he's working on. I don't know if I'm
Mm.
supposed to say what it is, so I'm not gonna say it because I'm not sure. But for my part, I'm not really creating something. I'm just trying to uh, show the game to everybody, and maybe
Mm.
thanks to my videos, to my multiplayer videos every Monday, some people, time to time, they put a comment like, "Oh wow, this community is still alive. How can I join?" etc. So it's like many people have came to the Discord server because of the videos, and I'm really happy because I'm not really creating something, but I'm helping. I mean, because I see it. I'm helping the game to revive it. Let's say.
Yeah,
I'm not the only one, of course, but and with this radio station, it's I really want to be one of the ambassadors of this community. That's why I'm always trying to make things with Fun Battalion, with Copenhagen, with you, with Jake the Tank Master, really and I think it also helps people to keep working on things. And I think that
yeah,
making an interview to Jake or you, maybe it will kind of motivate you because you will see that your work is getting some response, some reaction.
exactly.
And
Yeah, yeah.
Funny Battalion and I are so uh, how do we say?
Excited?
Yeah, excited for all everything that is going on the community. So that's why I'm that's why I made this YouTube channel. For
Mhm.
other games too, but Battalion Wars is one of my favorite sagas, and I really
Exactly.
wanted to just keep this game alive and dreaming for a third game. But even if it won't exist, I will be happy to um, helping this community to be still alive.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something I love. Like, just the love for a relatively small game from the early 2000s.
Hmm.
Just being able to hold this game up in the spotlight just for a little bit to get just a few more people curious, and then they get a few more people curious, and we slowly build the community up again. That's something I really enjoy about this server, and how many people are just trying their hardest to bring this game back to life in their own special ways.
Yes, and I'm really sure that if, for example, if we knew a big guy on Twitch or YouTube, like a big one, if he made some advertising of this game, like for example, a video showing everybody, hey, let's play this game. I mean, if people knew this game, I'm sure thousands, maybe millions of people would love this game. I'm sure.
Yeah, I feel this.
That's
Sorry.
sad, and I'm sorry, and that's very sad. It's kind of frustrating because you know that this game is good and has a potential to be a good game, but it was just a problem of advertising and luck.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues with development for Battalion Wars and things of that nature. I feel the biggest issue is just Battalion Wars released probably about 10, 20 years too soon. There really wasn't an audience for games that were a strategy game mixed with shooters. That audience didn't exist yet. In fact, Battalion Wars created that audience for a lot of people. There were games that before it that existed. I think one was called Sacrifice. There was maybe one other, but Sacrifice is one that a lot of people remember. But there just wasn't an audience yet. If Battalion Wars released maybe 10 years later, it probably would have done a little better, but it still just holds a special place in my heart.
Yeah. Well, we are all trying to keep this game alive. So we will see.
Yeah.
We will see. So now, let's go to the just one thing. I'm hearing myself. I don't know if it's because you're putting the speaker.
I wouldn't know why. I can't hear that.
That's weird.
Are you still hearing yourself?
Mm-hmm. Wait. No.
Okay, good. So
Okay.
I think I just had a loose cable.
Okay, so now let's go to the Terra Tactics part of the video. This is the main part of the video. So I imagine that it is difficult to choose a name. So why this name, and to explain to those who don't know it, what is Terra Tactics about?
Well, when it comes to the name, this is less interesting than it would seem. We racked our brains forever on what to call this game. Really, we just called it just BWSS for the longest time, Battalion Wars Spiritual Successor. But we eventually came up with the name Terra Tactics because there was an original name we had. It was Terra something. I can't remember what it was called. It was definitely Terra something, but it ended up being a name that was already copywritten.
Oh yeah?
So we started experimenting more. Terra, for those who don't know, Terra is just another word for Earth, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So Terra and Tactics. It's Earth Tactics, basically. The reason why the name is spelled... I know, right? It's so crazy. The reason why the name is spelt so weirdly is just for trademark purposes. So we can trademark the game's name more easily.
Okay. And for all to explain to those who don't know it, what is Terra Tactics about?
Terra Tactics is going to be about an interesting little world that we've been working on for the past year and a half or so. Essentially, the world of Terra, as we're calling it, and the powerful superpower factions that exist within it. Rivals facing rivals, mysteries being found, and just slowly building upon it as it becomes a bigger and bigger game, adding more factions and such as we go.
Okay. And how did all start? What was the beginning of this project?
That's actually interesting because that's a question that weirdly ties in with an earlier question. How did I find the Battalion Wars server?
Hmm.
It started as a project for concept art, just a simple concept art project for a portfolio. I asked myself, what would a French faction look like in Battalion Wars? So I just designed some concept art. I joined the Battalion Wars server. I put it up there, and then I ran into the chef, who is the assistant director of the game. And they were really interested in the concept art I was drawing. So they just wrote up some descriptions of the units like you would see in Battalion Wars and things of that nature. And we thought it was super cool. Then all of a sudden, FC, who is a member of the Battalion Wars server, showed up and they're like, hey, I want to make... do you mind if I turn that into a model? And I'm like, oh yeah, super cool and such. And it just kind of slowly snowballed from there. Just members from the Battalion Wars server jumping onto the project. And we eventually created Terra Tactics as it is right now.
Wow. How many make up how many make up the team, and how do you distribute the tasks? I mean, even if you're accepting new people, maybe there will be some new tasks, I think.
Well, there's always more tasks to do because many of us are taking on multiple tasks right now.
Okay.
There is 9 of us, I believe, currently.
Okay.
We do have more in the server, but a few of those are advisory roles that are just assisting with letting us know how we could do things differently and such. But currently, as for how we divvy out tasks, at this moment in time, we just divvy out tasks to who can do what, essentially. So we have Drady. Drady is our best modeler. He is the head of the modeling team, and he's the one who's been making things like the tank models. Currently, he's working on models for the infantry weapons and the infantry themselves. He also knows a lot of people who do modeling, and he is trying to recruit a few of them currently so we can get a little more done with that. We have individuals like the chef. The chef is a great writer, so they are the head of writing, and because they were the first person, they're also very good at keeping notes and things of that nature. They are also the assistant director because I am terrible at keeping notes. So they help remind me of when I am not following things I said earlier. We have individuals like Guardian, who is a pixel artist, and they do an amazing job at pixel art, and we have them doing icons for units and such. Okay. And we have Supreme. Supreme is a great little sketch artist. He does these little sketches that then I can take and just turn into something that's more usable for concept art. It makes the process faster because I don't have to figure out the design myself. And just slowly, we all just have our own little tasks and we slowly build upon each other. Currently, I'm the primary concept artist. I am the director, and a few other things. We all have multiple jobs at the end of the day. Okay. Just a small team doing our best.
And how has the process of making Terra Tactics been? What have been its phases? I mean, the pace of all these tasks?
Well, we are still early in development, so we are currently in what I would call Phase 2. Phase 1, which was when we first started, was just... I was just making concept art. We were just shooting ideas at each other, brainstorming, putting things together. It eventually just kind of became a proper planning phase, figuring out how the pieces of this puzzle would fit together, what these pieces would look like, etc. And then there's Phase 2 that we're currently working on, which is essentially getting our proof of concept put together. The proof of concept essentially being, it's just going to be a little snippet of gameplay just to show people that we've actually pushed in a direction. We don't just have images to show off. We don't just have maybe some 3D models. We actually have some gameplay that we can show off, showing different units functioning and working together.
Okay.
That is the plan for the proof of concept. And once the proof of concept is done, we just plan on using what the proof of concept is and slowly adding more and more units into it. Maybe add a heavy tank here, add some flyers there. Practice and tweak and mess with the interactions between different units until we have every unit for the main starting 2 factions in the game and working and having proper interactions with each other. Then we can take our assets and start building maps, building simple campaign missions, creating logic so that when you hit certain points, you complete the mission. That's currently what we're striving to get to right now.
Okay. And you were talking about the nations. How many nations will there be?
For the initial planned release of the game, there is going to be 4 nations. I'm going to put that in quotations, and I'll let you decide what that means. There are going to be 4 nations, which is the Ciel Republic. They are based off France.
Yes.
The
Yes, because we can see it from the fleur de lis. The fleur, I don't know how we say in English. It's the symbol of the...
No, you said it about right.
Fleur, I mean, I'm bilingual French because I live in France since 2008. So that's...
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you saw the interview with Copernic I made in my channel a long time ago, but it was in French.
I don't think I've seen that one, though. Oh, it was in French. That's probably why I didn't see that one.
I mean, but Copernic put subtitles in English, so you can see it.
Oh, I see. That we have a lot of people who speak French in my team, then. But,
I mean, I'm Spanish, but I live in France since 15 years.
Well, that's cool. I would love to travel more, but, poor. But then we have the Iron Reich. They're obviously based off of Germany, considering the name. The Free States of Fredonia. So free we say it twice. I don't think I need to tell you guys who that represents.
It's North Korea.
Oh, of course. It's very close, to be fair.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a star, so...
Exactly, that's... And then there's the Emerald Tsardom. The Emerald Tsardom is our Russian faction for the game.
Mm-hmm.
Each faction has their own little personal quirks to them. Like the Ciel Republic, they're based off of castles and monarchy and things of that nature. In their vehicles and their descriptions, they have these things. Stat-wise, they're very high health units, but very low attack. Well, not very low. They have lower attack, but higher health. So they're tougher, but won't dish out as much damage. Factions like the Iron Reich are very industrial-based. They're a mining faction that's also... Their miners are their military, so you see lots of mining tools on their equipment and on their infantry. Things of that nature. But yeah, we really want to push the idea of giving each faction a personality more outside of just what nation they're based on.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you think of this nation? I mean, why those 4? Why those 4? And did you think of any other nation that you have not been able to do for complexity or any cause?
Well, when it comes to the nations that we thought of and the ones we chose, the Ciel Republic was the first one I chose. The project literally started with me making concept art for them for Battalion Wars. So it made sense. It would be the easiest faction to add to the game. They're already there. So that's why we chose them, and it's kind of like, well, we wanted to base a lot of the story in this game and a lot of characters and design off of real world history. So that's why we ended up choosing Germany or the Iron Reich. Originally, that's why we... after that, it was kind of like, well, Battalion Wars had a few factions that if we didn't have kind of, parallels to, people would be a little upset, So that's why we ended up choosing the United States and Russia as factions to represent in the game, as well as the Free States of Fredonia and the Emerald Tsardom. There's also some other little Easter eggs with some of these names as well, so if y'all can spot them out, have fun with that. But that's the reason we chose those factions. As for factions we didn't add because of complexity, there's a lot. There are a number of factions that we want to add, and if this game is successful enough, we actually do plan on adding them into the game later down the line. We have factions that we based off England, Japan, Spain was a faction, Latin countries like that. China was one, Italy, there's a number of factions we wanted to represent in the game, a number of nations in the real world, and we actually already have really good ideas on how to represent them. It's just we're only a small team, and adding 14 factions that each have every single unit of Battalion Wars, which would equal up to around 467 units we need to design, model, and put out there. Yeah, that's a bit of a long ask.
Yeah.
We'll get there eventually, we're hoping, but the primary goal and focus is getting to the factions for the main game.
Yeah, make it work, and then maybe add some new content.
Yeah. Yes, that is the plan at the moment.
And what kind of units will there be in Terra Tactics? Like infantry, tanks, planes, ships?
There will be all of the trios, I'll call them. There will be infantry, ground vehicles, making up ground forces. Then we have air units, and we have naval units. We plan on having every unit that existed in Battalion Wars 2, and also a few new ones. Some units got divided into multiple roles, such as if we look at naval units, we plan on we ended up kind of dividing the battleship and changing the roles of what it would be into the light and heavy cruisers, which are kind of like the light and heavy tanks of ocean play at this point. Or such as for air units, we decided, well, what if we have players that want to strictly play air? They'd be too easy to counter with anti-air, you know? So we designed a unit called the Strike Copter, which is meant to be kind of a long-range artillery helicopter, so to speak. Fires big, high-damage missiles meant to target anti-air and such, but it's very slow and it's very fragile. So you have to catch out enemy anti-air before they catch you, so to speak. And like for infantry, we added the Engineer, which is essentially a very low damage repair unit. They can repair vehicles, they can heal allies, things of that nature. They don't provide a lot to the combat front, but they can maintain your forces a little better. We didn't want to add the jerry cans and the health packs like in previous games because this game is planned to be much bigger. So there's already going to be a lot of entities on the field as is. We don't really want to push the engine too far, so we came up with the idea of actually having a unit that heals. And for vehicles, we're also adding usable transports for players.
Oh, nice.
The maps are going to be much larger than Battalion Wars. We have much better technology we can use, or that's at our disposal. We are primarily using Unreal Engine 5 at the moment, which some people are doing some real crazy things with. So the plan for that is we are going to have very large maps, and to get around, it'd be very difficult to use infantry, which are the only things that can capture bases and things of that nature. So we decided to add transports in. And yeah.
Okay, because you will see in the PowerPoint there's like a lot of things. I'm watching right now the pixel arts and all these the drawings for all the units and the 3D models, and it's I'm like shocked. I'm literally shocked with everything that you're doing, and
Well,
just the passion, and wow, I'm really looking forward to join this project and help with anything. I don't know, with something. I want to be part of this.
we definitely have things.
And I mean, I was talking about the concept art design that is awesome. How did you start drawing?
Oh, that's actually... I started drawing technically a long time ago. I would draw on and off. I would just draw whenever I was just really upset, essentially. After I joined the army, I kind of stopped drawing for a while. It had been years since I drew. When I got out of the army again, I met a friend on Twitter that I just really enjoyed his art, and he just kind of encouraged me to draw. He's like, "Nah, you should give it a try," and I tried it, and I've been drawing ever since. And that's kind of what I like about things like that. Things I like about art in this project is encouraging others to be creative. Like, you never know when you're going to, let's say, encourage somebody to make some big video game. Just create art that's inspiring others to join in and play the original games and join the community again. You never know if you inspire and are just kind to somebody. what it will lead to in the future. And it led to me drawing for a living.
Okay.
Take it as you will.
And how is the conceptual art process until its final version? I imagine it will be different if it's infantry or vehicle.
Well, when it comes to infantry is kind of a little easier than it is for vehicles. The main reason being we're following a similar design philosophy that was used in Battalion Wars, which is the infantry just kind of swaps out heads, backpacks, and weapons. That's about it. So for infantry, we really just needed to come up with the first form of the infantry, be it the grunt, which also shares the same body plan with the engineer. So we just had to switch out their weapons, their heads, their backpacks, etc. Or the veterans, or as we call, veterans. In this case, we do have a different body plan, a very different body plan to the original philosophy for Battalion Wars, but it uses similar premise with, different heads, different backpacks, different weapons. That makes creating these units a little easier. The thing that's difficult with both vehicles and infantry on concept design is if we take example of the light tank for the Seattle Republic, that has 26 other versions of itself. There are so many versions of that tank that I designed and concepted and tried coming up with. There's a ton of versions. There was even a point where we designed the light tank for the Republic to be a moped tank with a little sidecar machine gunner. We experimented so much with these designs until we eventually came up with this very sturdy looking, very tough looking castle-y tank that we currently have, which is on screen now, which started with that original little sketch you see on the left. It was just a quick, simple sketch. As for the one on the right, after I do the simple sketch, we have Drady just take that simple sketch and create a super simple blockout. This is something that is done in game development quite a bit, where they'll create these little blockouts in 3D and then hand them over to the concept artist because it saves time for everybody. So then I could just take all the different angles of that 3D image and add more details, add the things that we want into it, tweak it, make it look exactly as it needs to look on screen to a degree. And that's kind of how concept art works down the line.
And how long does it take to make a concept art? For example, I mean, this one, if I understand well, it was way too long, but in general?
Yeah, the Republic Light Tank took a lot longer than everything else, because it was the first vehicle I was designing for the game. I was trying to get the general design philosophy down for vehicles of the series. Once we got that down, it made it much faster to design vehicles for other factions. We understood what the proportions of the turret should be to the body, what the size of the vehicle should be. And we just slowly worked on it from there. And it could take me maybe a week of just working constantly on a design to figure it out. It really just depends on how inspired and how well I can see the image in my head of what a design should look like. And if after I draw it, that design actually looks as good as I thought it was going to be, or if there's some issues and I need to do some tweaking, or I need to completely change pieces of it.
Okay. And what has been the most difficult thing to do so far in Terra Tactics?
I would actually say the most difficult thing is the concept art for me currently.
And for the team in general?
Yeah, for Terra Tactics in general. It's not that I don't enjoy the art. I love drawing these things. They're so much fun. But you got to remember, with all the factions in the game, with all the units required for every factions, all the commanders, building structures, map design, all these things I have to concept. There's 400 or 500 things I have to concept for this game. So just the sheer amount of it is what makes it very difficult to do sometimes. It can be incredibly intimidating. That's why it's nifty that we have things put in small portions. Currently, we're just focusing on the Republic and the Reich. We're focusing on getting the units designed and everything for those factions, so that when those two are done, we can move on to the next faction and the next faction and just slowly work on it step by step. But that would definitely have to be the most difficult thing for me at this point. Because there's just so many things to draw.
Yes. I mean, so many units and so many things and so many settlements for so many weapons and items. Yes.
Yeah.
I can understand the work will be very, very, very big, but... Okay, so after the concept art phase, how would you transfer it to a 3D phase? Because you said that after this, I mean, the objective now was to, I don't know when, but your objective was to show some gameplay, I mean, something, not just models. So
Yes,
how would you
of course.
transfer it to a 3D phase, and what tools or programs do you work with?
Okay. This is interesting because this goes back to how concept art is done here for us. Currently, the art program I use is Krita. It is free, provided you don't go on like the whatever store. You just look it up on Google, go to their primary website. You can download it for free. Krita is a very nifty program, very similar to Photoshop in a lot of ways. As for getting it to 3D, so the first phase of getting it into 3D is me sketching out simple shapes for, like, let's say a tank. I just sketch out some simple shapes for the turrets, kind of come up with some ideas on how it will look, like some of the crenulations on the light tank, which was originally put on the first sketches for it. And then I hand it over to Drady. Drady is our primary modeler at the moment, and he takes it and he creates the simple blockout. Then he hands that simple blockout to me because he just makes it in simple shapes, hands it to me so I can understand the dimensions of every side of this vehicle, hands it over to me. I finish the concept art using that blockout to understand, like, what the rear proportions should look like, what the top proportions, what the side proportions, what the front proportions should look like. And then when I'm done doing the final pieces of concept art using the 3D blockout, I hand the concept art back over to Drady. He uses Blender, and I'm also currently learning to use Blender so I can help him with these things. We need more modelers. And then he'll take the already existing blockout and just start adding the details, adding things to make it look more complete, things of that nature, adding like the little towers and the crenulations I draw up for the detail phase. And doing it this way makes it easier on everybody. Because Drady, it's easier on him because all he has to do is quickly make a blockout, then he can move on to a different project and relax for a bit while not having to worry about that. I finish concept art, hand it over to him. He already has a blockout he can use to build up off of. So it's kind of like, just creating steps to work from.
Okay. Well, it seems very complex.
It can be, yeah.
But I mean, that's what it is to make a game. So this is like a final question, and you can be really, how do we say, sincero. You can be, you can say the truth. Is the support that people give to the Terra Tactics project a source of motivation for you, for example, in the Gorgisburg Art Gallery?
I'm gonna have to be super honest here. That is a definite yes.
I was
y'all
scared.
y'all have no idea how much that motivates me to keep working. Like, I know that like a lot of you think it's just like a simple, oh, this looks good. But to somebody like me who is an artist and occasionally you find yourself questioning, am I wasting my time on this? Am I doing that? Just telling somebody what you feel about their artwork and like what you feel about the project, and like when I put things out on ideas and people respond to them, like just doing that really motivates me to keep going because it shows you guys aren't only interested, but you're rooting for it to happen. And that just means the world to me, and it means the world to my team, and we really do appreciate it.
That's so beautiful. I'm gonna cry.
I try my best.
So just to finish this interview, is there some final message you want to send to the Battalion Wars community?
If I was to send a final message to the Battalion Wars community, it would simply be, don't think you can't accomplish something just because it's too big a project or somebody tells you otherwise. Like, when I started this project, I kept thinking, this project's too big. I can't do this. Nobody's interested. I had people telling me there's no way I could accomplish it. It wasn't going to be likely. And I just kept going. Eventually, I picked up people who actually believed in me. They believed in the project, and all you got to do is just keep going with any project you're working on. And eventually, even if you suck at it at first, if you keep trying, you'll eventually get better at it. You'll pick up people who want to support you and people who will just be there for you. And just the more you work, the more you build. Just don't give up on things too quickly.
Wow. Best words you can say to the community.
Well,
No, it's true. It's true that I mean, there's as you said, there's a lot of people that is doing things like, for example, myself with videos, Zeno with the custom missions, Copenhagen 2, Kelvinator with the models on Halo, you with Terra Tactics, Jake with the tanks on Sprocket, and really, just we have to know that we have to get to push forward, and
exactly.
and the community, it's like it helps itself, let's say, because, for example, when I put a video myself and I get some reactions, it keeps motivating me, and it's the same for you or Kupenik or somebody else. And yeah, maybe there's some projects that keep getting bigger and bigger, but you don't have to let it go. You have to fight it for. And I think this project is very ambitious, because as you will all see in the video, in the PowerPoint, there's like models and models and models, and we are really, I mean, I think I can speak in the name of all the community when I say that we're all very exciting with the idea of a little gameplay, even if it's some seconds.
Of course, yeah.
It's like the confirmation, it's like the birth of something. Because yeah, models, it's really exciting, but the most exciting thing is to see the gameplay, like something that is playing, something that is moving, to see. I mean, I think it has to be really just beautiful for all of you to give life for all those models.
Yeah.
Because for the moment there are just 3D models or just drawings. So to see that your creation is moving, it has to be an awesome feeling.
It really is. It's something that I can't really state enough, is, especially on this project, how much it feels when you just... It's interesting to see the art. It's really cool to see the models come to life. But when you see it animated, when it's actually performing in front of you, that's kind of when it finally clicks and you understand that this is actually going to be a thing.
Yeah.
Which is why we're waiting for the proof of concept before putting out things like, Kickstarters and such. We don't want to ask people to support us when we really would be kind of pushing our luck, because a lot of people are used to seeing things of that nature. A little concept art and some models, people support it, and then it disappears. We're not doing that. We're here to stay. Even if it takes us 10 years, even if I'm the only person working on this project, it is going to get done.
Wow. And do you have any idea of not an exact date or time, but do you have an idea when a first image or video of gameplay will be showed?
Not really. I won't lie. We wanted to have it by summer, but things are pretty slow at the moment. I don't want to rush my team, because obviously what is more important than creating this game at the end of the day is the mental and physical well-being of my team.
Of course.
So I tell them all the time, take your time, get to it when you can. We're hoping to have it either by fall or winter this year. I'm not making a promise on that.
Okay,
it might not come out till next
it's
year.
It's estimation. Okay.
It's just an estimation at this point.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think we can just finish the video with that kind of teaser.
Of course.
It will get the community very excited. And as I say to Kupanik, Jake, Gino, and you, it's a real pleasure to have you all here, and it's even an honor, let's say, to host some podcasts with you. And I'm really excited to talk with you in private to join this project.
Of course.
But don't forget to go to the Twitter account of the Terratacktics official account. And don't forget to go to the Battalion Wars community Discord server, so you can see all the evolution of the concept art of Pugums. And if you want, don't hesitate to ask them some help, because I think we all understood that they need help. I mean, they're really doing some gorgeous work, but they won't say no to some help. So, thank you very much.
I will say,
yes.
I will say, we aren't accepting just anybody for help right now. We need people who can do the work.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
But I will say it's been an honor being here, and I really appreciate you asking me to join you today.
Okay, well, the pleasure is mine. So see you next time, Pugums, and thank you very much
for
your dedication and your patience with my Spanish accent. I hope you all understand what I was saying. So see you next time for another episode of the Battalion Wars Radio Station. Bye.
Yep. Bye.